Hello again. We're analyzing the development of the doctrine of the Trinity using Louis Berkhof, the great Reformed scholar, theologian, his chapter which he titles The Trinitarian Controversy. The Council of Nicea. The Council of Nicea was convened in AD 325 to settle the dispute. The issue was clear-cut, as a brief statement will show. The Arians rejected the idea of a timeless or eternal generation, while Athananius reasserted this. The Arians said that the Son was created from the non-existent, while Athananius maintained that he was generated from the essence of the Father. The Arians held that the Son was not of the same substance as the Father, while Athananius affirmed that he was homoousios with the Father, of the same substance in Greek. Besides the contending parties, there was a great middle party. This is the part that we don't know much about if we're in this controversy ourselves. The great middle party, which really constituted the majority under the leadership of the church historian Eusebius of Caesarea, and which is also known as the Origenistic party, since it found its impetus in the principles of origin. This party had Arian leanings and was opposed to the doctrine that the Son is of the same substance with the Father. That would be homoousios. It proposed a statement previously drawn up by Eusebius, which conceded everything to the party of Alexander and Athanasius, with the single exception of the above-named doctrine, that is, the same substance, and suggested that the word homoousios be substitute for homoousios, so as to teach that the Son is of similar substance with the Father. After considerable debate, the emperor finally threw the weight of his authority into the balance and thus secured the victory for the party of Athanasius. The council adopted the following statement on the point in question, quote, "We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of things visible and invisible, and in one Lord, Jesus Christ, begotten, not made, being of one substance, homoousios, with the Father." This was an unequivocal statement. The term homoousios could not be twisted to mean anything else than that the essence of the Son is identical with that of the Father. It placed him on a level with the Father as an uncreated being and recognized him as autotheos. That means self-existent God. The aftermath of Nicea. A. Unsatisfactory nature of the decision. The decision of the council did not terminate the controversy, but was rather only the beginning of it. A settlement forced upon the church by the strong hand of the emperor could not satisfy, and was also of uncertain duration. It made the determination of the Christian faith dependent on imperial caprice and even on court intrigues. Athanasius himself, although victorious, was dissatisfied with such a method of settling ecclesiastical disputes. He would rather have convinced the opposing party by the strength of his arguments. The sequel clearly proved that, as it was, a change in emperor, an altered mood, or even a bribe might alter the whole aspect of the controversy. The party in the ascendancy might all at once suffer eclipse. This is exactly what happened repeatedly in subsequent history. B. Temporary ascendancy of semi-Arianism in the Eastern Church. The great central figure in the post-Nicene Trinitarian controversy was Athanasius. He was by far the greatest man of the age, an acute scholar, a strong character, and a man who had the courage of his convictions and was ready to suffer for the truth. The church gradually became partly Arian, but predominantly semi-Arian, and the emperors usually sided with the majority, so that it was said, quote, "Unus Athanasius contra orbem," which means in English, one Athanasius against the world. 5 times this worthy servant of God, that is Athanasius, was driven into exile and succeeded in office by unworthy sycophants who were a disgrace to the church. The opposition to the Nicene Creed was divided into different parties. Says Cunningham, who, by the way, his historical theology is another one of the major sources of Berkhof here. Cunningham says the more bold and honest Arians said that the Son was heteroousios, of a different substance from the Father. Others said that he was anomaios, unlike the Father. And some, who were usually reckoned semi-Arians, admitted that he was homoiousios, of a like substance with the Father. But they all unanimously refused to admit the Nicene phraseology because they were opposed to the Nicene doctrine of the true and proper divinity of the Son, and saw and felt that phraseology accurately and unequivocally expressed it, though they sometimes professed to adduce other objections against the use of it. That's the end of Cunningham's quote. Yes, he's a little tortured in the way he writes long sentences. That's from his work, though, called Historical Theology. Semi-Arianism, Berkhof goes on to say, prevailed in the eastern section of the church. The West, however, took a different view of the matter and was loyal to the Council of Nicea. This found its explanation primarily in the fact that while the East was dominated by the subordinationism of Origen, the West was largely influenced by Tertullian and developed a type of theology that was more in harmony with the views of Athanasius. In addition to that, however, the rivalry between Rome and Constantinople must also be taken into account. When Athanasius was banished from the East, he was received with open arms in the West, and the councils of Rome, which was 341, and Sardica in 343, unconditionally endorsed his doctrine. His cause in the West was weakened, however, by the accession of Marcellus of Ankara to the ranks of the champions of Nicene theology. He fell back on the old distinction between the eternal and impersonal Logos immanent in God, which revealed itself as divine energy in the work of creation, and the Logos became personal at the Incarnation. You see, that doctrine, although it has overlap with something like Jehovah's Witnesses' doctrine, is not the same, because they admit a personal existence for the Logos, the Word, before creation. Marcellus apparently is denying that and saying the Logos only became personal when Christ became the Son of God on earth. Marcellus denied that the term generation could be applied to the pre-existing Logos, and therefore restricted the name Son of God to the incarnate Logos, and held that at the end of his incarnate life, the Logos returned to his pre-mundane relation to the Father. His theory apparently justified the Origenists or Eusebians in bringing the charge of Sabellianism against their opponents. Sabellianism being another name for modalism, was thus instrumental in widening the breach between the East and the West. Various efforts were made to heal the breach. Councils were convened at Antioch, which accepted the Nicene definitions, though with two important exceptions. They asserted the homoiousios, and the generation of the Son by an act of the Father's will. That is this idea of a similar substance, but not the same. This, of course, could not satisfy the West. Other synods and councils followed, in which the Eusebians vainly sought a Western recognition of the deposition of Athanasius and drew up other creeds of a mediating type. But it was all in vain until Constantius became sole emperor, and by cunning management and force succeeded in bringing the Western bishops into line with the Eusebians at the synods of Arles and Milan, those synods in 355 AD. So we can see that after Constantine, the controversy goes on. It goes on for at least 2 generations. So we'll link here on your screen our documents and videos on the documents on the Christology of the early church. Did the early church believe in worshiping Jesus Christ? Did they believe in his, therefore, divinity? Next time, the turning of the tide in the Trinitarian controversy.